All right. Hey, everybody. It's Vanessa with ICND. Just want to welcome everybody to the webinar, Peers and Ideas, Rising to the Challenge. This is our second of the webinar series, and just want to appreciate and thank everybody who has joined us, all of our attendees, and our awesome panelists. So, you know, these are some of my peers, and we've definitely shared our ideas over the last week preparing for this call and or this webinar, and just want to appreciate and thank everyone for being on here and give them a moment to introduce themselves. So we'll start at the top left with Lance and Elaine Stitcher. We've got two husband-wife teams here, and this is the first. Lance and Elaine, tell us a little about yourselves to the audience.
Well, we are on the beautiful Eastern Shore of Virginia, and we have 170 properties between Chincoteague Island and Ocean City, Maryland. So this has been interesting for us dealing with regulations from two different states. We've been in business about 5 years and pretty much went from 0 to 170 in that time. As you know, we are ICND customers, and we're very happy to be here.
Thanks so much. Karen and Jernigan-Bobe.
Hi, everybody.
We're Karen
And John.
from Sunset Properties. We've been in business for almost 19 years. Wow, where's time gone? And we have properties all up and down the Alabama Gulf Coast, from Morgan, Alabama, all the way to Orange Beach. And then we even have some out in parts of Utah and Orlando, Florida. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Brittany Blackman.
Hey, so I am the operations manager at Gibson Beach Rentals. Our team, we kind of support each other by saying that we're all superheroes. So our team members have all supported me and calling me Superwoman. So we manage about 115 properties in the Destin, Florida, Miramar Beach area.
Awesome. And we've got our first international guest, Rik. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Rik. I'm the only panelist here from Europe. Actually, we are based in Bruges. Bruges is, let's say, 1 hour drive from Brussels. It's in Belgium. We have 6 guest houses and apartments in the medieval city of Bruges, which is a UNESCO World Heritage. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to have you. And we've got Emily from Casiola.
Hi, my name is Emily Pattillo. I'm the listing and revenue manager for Casiola Vacation Homes in Central Florida. We have about 300 vacation homes ranging from 2 to, I think we have 1 14-bedroom. So very entrenched in that market and only that market. Happy to be here.
Thank you, appreciate it. And we've got Leslie.
Hi, I'm from Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. We're over in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We have 2 Virginia people here. I think we have more pollen than you, though. We have about 40 properties, and I've been in business about 20 years. Of course, we're ICDNY clients as well. But we love what you guys do for us, and you've helped us grow. And I'm actually opening up another company this year in Bar Harbor, Maine. It's already starting off with about 10 properties. So
awesome. Congratulations on your expansion. That's awesome to hear. Well, I really appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll get down to brass tacks here and start the conversation. And we joined earlier this week in kind of talking about some of these points, and just want to, you know, a lot of the attendees on the call are going through many of the same hurdles that you guys are all going through with this pandemic and the COVID-19. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how are you guys keeping the doors open, and how are you able to utilize your team? Are you guys taking advantage of any of the small business loans that they have to offer, and certainly from Rik's perspective, the European market, and what other ideas do you have to share to kind of keep the doors open and stay alive to get us through the next few weeks to months and to continue on? Does anybody want to start off?
Sure, we'll start off.
The audio does not like Lance. We might need Elaine to jump in there. It likes Elaine's voice better.
Fortunate we've always operated.
Seriously, you can hear me better than him?
Yeah, we can hear you better.
I think we're having, no. Oh, I don't know where you were going with that. Okay.
I'm going to move over. Maybe she's closer to the mic. Is that better?
I think that's it. Yep.
All right. So anyway, we've been very fortunate. We've always operated very lean with staff. We've not had to make layoffs to date. We are able to keep our staff busy, both by working with guests, and we've also got them doing home inspections on a daily basis and dropping an email note to all of our homeowners stating that we're making them send an inside pic and an outside pic so that they know that they've been inside the house and just checking on things. The SBA loans are going to be a hot topic over the coming weeks. I know a lot of us have applied for them, various responses. I'm actually waiting on an email back from our bank with an update. I was on another panel this morning. Essentially, I don't think anybody's been funded yet, and the banks are really, really struggling with this process.
Yep, definitely. I've been hearing the same thing. Karen and John, how about you guys down there in the Gulf Shores?
So far.
Yeah, we haven't made any layoffs. We've been trying our best to keep everyone very busy.
We've cut hours.
Cut a little hours. You don't get penalized unless you cut more than 25% of the hours, you realize. So we're hovering around that. Yes, we've applied for the SBA, but everybody's in the same boat there. It's tedious. Slow for response. So.
And we've been keeping people busy. It's amazing at how busy, even though they cut hours, it's amazing at how busy they are staying. We're doing everything from looking through our website, going over it with a fine-tooth comb, and maybe we might have a duplicate picture somehow. So we will have two pictures back to back of the same unit. So maybe the same view, and so we're editing the pictures as far as the way they scroll through. We're editing the description and the wording, and it's just little things like that that we didn't realize that was already out there in the public. And so we're doing things from the website to contacting our owners, picking up the phone and calling our owners, because right now we're concerned about them and how they're doing through all this. And that's something that the OTAs can't really feasibly do. And so we're reminding the owners who we are and why we're such a family, why we're such a partnership. And between the website and that, and then going through and doing some deep cleans in the homes and taking care of the guests that we do have, because we are still open for business. We're not entering the property, but we're still open for business. So little things like that, and it's amazing how busy we're staying.
We have a funny scenario also, because right before all this really got crazy, we purchased another rental company in our area.
That's right.
About 60 units. So it's been, we didn't know those owners, so we've been going through that process of trying to get to know them and try to hold their hands and make everybody feel comfortable. So it's been an interesting situation.
Great ideas. How about Brittany?
We unfortunately did have to make layoffs. I think it was back on March the 21st. We had to go in and pretty much lay off all of our in the team field. Our managers have been able to stay on for now, and we've been able to keep them busy. Our hope is that we have applied for all the loans that we possibly can. So our hope is definitely that they do get approved, and we can bring everybody back and have everybody busy doing some side projects and everything. But it's a very tough decision for us to make, but one that was unfortunately we needed to make. Here in Florida, vacation rentals got shut down on March the 29th for 2 weeks. So it made things a little difficult. We also took the stance a little bit from what is our liability? What are our owners' liabilities? What happens if one of our team members gets sick in a property, or one of our guests or owners get sick? So very, very hard decisions to make, but our end goal was we wanted everybody to stay safe and sound, and we want to come out of this standing up stronger than we ever have.
Sure. Rik, how about you over in the European markets? Are you guys able to apply for any kind of relief over there?
Yes, in most countries, the governments, they offer some funding. So it's a sort of, Corona funding. In our country, it's about, let's say, $4,000 that they offer for 1 month period. And then as long as the quarantine is prolonged, they offer a $150 daily funding. And at this moment now, we are a bit at the peak of the epidemic. So mortality is decreasing. So we didn't have that much problems like the Southern Europe had. So we're about 700 miles from, let's say, a city as Bergamo. But the impact here was definitely less than Spain or Italy. So people are talking now here from to turn back the lockdown, but nevertheless it will still take several weeks or even months. And there's always the risk of a second peak of Corona, of course.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Leslie, how about in Smith Mountain Lake? What are you guys seeing? Are you able to continue, or have you been able to, or have you had to make some layoffs there?
No, we haven't made any layoffs. Actually, we're open. And one of the unique situations regarding the safety and everything is two of the companies actually shut down here totally. And we stayed open. We left it open to some of the owners, how they felt, because a lot of the owners are actually in right now. I would say about maybe 10 of them, 1/3. So, or a little bit less. But we have a team that is OSHA CDC actually trained. And we went through some of that certification last year. If you're familiar with Derek and his housekeeping programs, that's a good program to go through with the VRMA. They're now together as an organization. And we're encouraging 2 sets of our cleaners and our maintenance people were not certified. So they felt uncomfortable. So we've reassigned actually some of the state employees. We happen to know the governor's office. We work with them and other aspects over the past 12 years of them vacationing, them coming here. And so when they had to lay off the state park cleaning crew, they are actually OSHA certified. And so we reached out, and they are in your community. So we reached out to them, and we've taken on some of those cleaners till June 1st. They report back on June 1st. So we've done that. And we're able to keep them busy. We have people coming here, even though it's a stay-at-home order. I guess I don't know why they're still traveling, but they are. And we make the home really as safe as we can from a cleaning aspect, as well as if something occurs within the home, like internet, at all at that point. We, we talk them through it. We're delivering extra toilet paper we find. Our toilet paper supply ironically came in like the day before
That was
the
luck.
March shutdown, and we have yeah, we're all looking at each other going, we're sitting on gold, but we're actually trying to deliver extra toilet paper, that sort of thing, to the guests that are in house. A lot of guests are staying 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they keep extending their stay.
Mm-hmm. Used to be, because your feeder markets are like the DC area, correct?
Yes, the DC, the Cary, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, all of that. And ironically, we have some people in from New York, which we like to see, but sometimes we take a step back and go, okay, but we just are precautious. It's not to say they haven't, you know, you can't be prejudiced in this market, but you have to also be a bit more aware, you know, and so we just encourage them. But every time they exit, though, from a cleaning standpoint, we have to shut down the home for 24 to 72 hours, and then the cleaners are allowed to enter. And we've done some of the same ideas that Karen and the Bobbies have done. We've contacted all of our owners. I put out a weekly email to all of them stating what we're doing, and we have really tightened up on our procedures following the OSHA guidelines. And I'm also a healthcare architect and have been for 40 years. So I kind of knew a lot of that coming from that background. So.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. How about you, Emily? How is Casiola faring through this?
We are doing the best that we can, taking it day by day. It's a very volatile situation. As you know, things are changing every single day. You go on a webinar, and then by the time the following week happens, it's like everything else has changed. But we unfortunately are in the same position as Brittany. We did have to lay off over half of our staff. We had over 30 employees and a lot of our frontline staff that, because of our stay-in-place order, we're not physically allowed to go to those properties. So we did have to furlough most of them. So we're on a solely manager and operational managers as well. So we are applying for SBA loans. I'm not involved in that process. Our CEO is doing it, but I do believe it's been tough for us as well. We're hoping that we're going to be able to get that and retain get some of our employees back. As far as what we're doing during this time, it's kind of one of those situations where you work so much in your business that you don't really have a lot of time to work on your business. And so this is giving us that much needed break to go through all of our listings and go through the things that were, you know, our processes that might have been broken, or we just kind of patchwork them together just to get by. And now we're fixing that. So when we do open our doors back up, we're going to be able to hit the ground running. So just trying to stay positive, and also our weekly meetings we do through Zoom as well, so we can get as much face-to-face time, because obviously we don't have that anymore, and we want to keep employee morale. So yeah, and anxiously watching the news to see what happens next.
That's right. I think we all are.
Vanessa, I wanted to say something real quick, like about the SBA loans. Any type of loan, we got a little tidbit from, I guess, our friend who's an accountant that said, anytime you fill out a loan, a lot of times either your internet or their website, something goes down. And so they suggested that when at all possible, print out the applications. And then when you print them out, then you can fill them out at your own pace and then upload them. It makes the stress level go down, needless to say, but also you have a better chance of getting it all up and all in at one time, instead of part of the application going in, page 1, page 2 doesn't, and things of that nature.
Have the owners of the companies, have you gotten any kind of communication on how long it will take for you to receive the funds now that you've submitted it?
I wish.
Wow.
I check my every moment.
Yeah,
to see if there's a response.
Karen, have you heard anything? Yeah, no, I haven't heard.
Have you gotten a confirmation that it's been received, so you know that at least you're okay? And I guess it's just that they've received so many, an influx of so many applications at once, they're not able to process them. I would be curious to know, post this, and maybe some of the attendees can weigh in, if anybody has had any luck with a certain lender, or are you getting any chatter? April, I apologize, April. We have April on the line as well to help moderate and ask any questions as they come up.
We've just had a couple of people confirm that they just got their confirmation today, and just saying that a couple of people also said that their loan was accepted and the fund was most likely to be around April the 20th. And so they're working with a small bank. So that's good news to hear that businesses are being accepted and turned around, hopefully fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do have a friend. She sent me a picture of her screenshot of her bank, under her online banking transactions, and she did get a deposit on 4/3 from the IRS COVID stimulus payment, and so she got $3,400 just to start her off, and she's a small business owner. So I don't know exactly why she got, but she's banking with Wells Fargo. Like,
is that personal or company?
That was her company.
Nice.
And Karen's given all the attendees all of her banking information.
Yeah. It's nothing major. Nothing major.
No, we can't see it. We can't see it. So we kind of went through some of this about, how are you keeping the work going, with Lance and Elaine talking about how they have their crew going in and taking pictures. I did see, one recommendation was to go in and actually take like a video of the home and send that to your owners to let them know everything is great. You still have boots on the ground. But, this is a stressful time for your teams. How are you keeping your folks motivated? And, what are some of those things that you're going in? I know the cleaning processes are going to be on point. Dirk is going to be so happy with what folks are doing. But how else are you utilizing this time to improve your overall processes, trim some of that fat and make your businesses more efficient? What are some of those things that you guys have come into and put into action?
We also are having them go through the website, building out area guides, calendars, which we hope will still be accurate by the time we get there. I know we're all probably dealing with this issue, but second homeowners are not welcome where we are. The town literally told them not to come down. So there's a lot of anxiety from owners not being able to get here. So again, with the pictures, the videos, checking on lawns, inventorying homes. This is a great time to have them go through homes with a fine-tooth comb. How many glasses need to be replaced from last year, what rooms need to be painted, those kind of things. We did pull back on spring cleans for right now. We figure it makes sense to get them done closer to when we actually have guests, because homes can get dirty just sitting there, obviously. And we've also charged them with coming up with some ideas to keep themselves busy. What do you think we need to change? And they've been doing a great job. I know that they're watching right now. They've been doing a great job.
And another thing we do to keep them motivated is we'll have the occasional Zoom happy hour at the end of the workday.
Yes, that definitely helps.
I love it. I love it.
One of the things that we've had to implement when we are not having revenue come in anymore is getting working capital from our owners, because we didn't have that previously. So you would be able to use their incoming revenue to pay for repairs and things of that nature, but now it's not possible. So that's been a very important step in the process we've been making ourselves very busy with. And any new owner that comes on board has to now have that when they sign the contracts.
We've been because we do have a stay at home, but because we're basically along the coast where tourism is somewhat essential. We've had our girls go out and they've done live videos. They've done a live video biking along the state park. Our beaches are closed, but our state park is open. And so they've taken all of the state-owned bikes or community-owned bikes that you could borrow. They've taken them up, so you have to have your own bike. But we've done videos of them biking. We've done videos of going to our local restaurants and doing takeout. And that way the local restaurants get publicity also. And we've done one with kayaking and anything that our team loves to do. We want them to share it with all of our fans on Facebook and Instagram or social media. So they've been doing that. We've been going back and all of the guests that have given us 5 stars over the years, we've gone back to reach out to them personally to say, hey, we just wanted to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and staying well. We're thinking of you, and things like that. And for those that are staying with us right now, because again, we are open and we have people that are sheltering in place. We're leaving them. We're not publicizing it, but we're leaving a $50 gift certificate to use on the stay in 2021 as a thank you for remembering us and choosing us to stay with during this pandemic, during this crisis, and making the best of it. And then also we've had a few companies that have unfortunately had to close their doors. And so what we've done is I've got the team together, and something I made a mistake on, and hopefully you guys can learn from me, or you probably already know this, it's kind of like if you have a crisis and you yell out, call 911, everyone else thinks the other person's going to call 911. You need to designate someone to call 911. Well, I can't just go out, hey, look up the names and the properties, the company, etc. I need to designate someone because they all think the other person's doing it. And so anyway, I've designated people now to look at a property. I've designated someone to formulate the letter, designated someone to get the photos together, etc. The email blast together. So that's what we're doing, and we're keeping them positive. Again, Zoom meetings that really help. And I think it's important. I saw that whoever is answering the telephone, that they have a very positive outlook too. We have one employee that her outlook is a little bit more pessimist. I'm the eternal optimist. And so we don't really know when she gets it. She totally gets it. And so we don't have her answering the phone as much because I called our local linen supply company about 2 weeks ago, just checking on toilet paper and saying, hey, just wondering the status of you guys be able to order any. And she was very pessimistic to the point that it scared me. And she was saying, I don't know if we're even going to be here to give it out if it does come in. I was like, whoa. So I just want to make sure that the people that are answering your phones, they're reaching out to your guests, that they have the eternal sunshine. And that's not all doom and gloom because they're getting hit already by the news outlet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have a question come in. Sorry, Vanessa, that said, are any of you reviewing your cancellation policies moving forward to attract more travelers as soon as restrictions lift?
It's a good question.
We relaxed some of our policies on Airbnb at this point. For early season, early summer bookings, midsummer bookings to hope to bring in some more guests. But other than that, not so much.
Right now, we've been working on, honestly, we've been working on our short-term cancellation policy, as in what are we doing for guests in the near future, because we have travel bans in both markets through April 27th and April 30th. Which is odd because we also have a Virginia stay-at-home order until June 10th. Not sure how those two are going to intermingle. But yes, we're thinking about our future cancellation policies. But at this point in time, we've gone to reviewing reservations that are within 30 days of arrival. We have a certain set of criteria, and then we try to address refunds 14 days prior to arrival. Because right now, the situation, and who's to say that we won't be able to travel in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks?
Are there some more questions about that, April?
We just had somebody make a comment. Sarah Bradford made the comment to just be warned that if you lower your cancellation policy on Airbnb, they aren't letting you go back to super strict, like they aren't letting you retro that back to like the super strict cancellation.
Thanks, Sarah. Why am I not surprised? We did it on some of our smaller, I don't want to say less desirable, but some of the smaller places that tend to get short stays in the spring and the fall, but we're not going to do it across the board.
We were kind of chit-chatting about this
Good
earlier.
to know.
And I think everyone's...
Go ahead, Lance.
I was just going to say that I think everyone's future with Airbnb will be a topic for another webinar series after this is over.
Absolutely.
And then I did have another.
We will need cocktails for that.
Yeah.
That would be a true happy hour. I did have another question come in that are wondering, Leslie, maybe this is more directed to you, for anyone that's letting someone come in for self-isolation or quarantine. Have you looked at what you're going to do about cleaning after their departure?
Yes, we have. Actually, we take about 2 to 3 days after we block it. And we've already warned the owners that you're going to see a block and it's going to show like an owner or a maintenance block. And they worry like they're going to lose money. And I'm like, no, we really need to do this from a safety protocol for right now, not only for the safety of the guests, but for the safety of our cleaners. We want to keep them healthy and going. I mean, that's our backbone. So we're doing that. And we have, there's a technique that I learned in the CDC when I was working there, that you actually, we go from room to room and room to room, everything gets bagged and wiped down. Like the linens go out in a bag from that room. That's one thing. And it's just something I remembered. I'm like, this is what we're doing. And your gloves and everything you use in that room, you toss it in a separate trash bag, because you don't want to self-contaminate even touching a wall or something else. I mean, we have already done some spring cleaning here, not the exterior. We're waiting till after all the pollen falls. But we had already really washed down all the homes inside in February, which was good from that standpoint, because that was ready for a guest from the self-isolation. But it does take about 2 days. You have to wait for a bit. From what we know right now, who knows, that may shorten, that may lengthen. And then we're supplying our cleaners with gloves, masks, anything else that we can, hair covers, foot covers, everything.
Great. And then I did have a couple more questions. Vanessa, you can stop me if you want to go on and I can ask them later. But the first one is, are companies refunding in full? I think we discussed this a little bit in the last webinar, but maybe if you could touch on if you're refunding your guests in full. Their concern is that they have a short season, so they're worried if they refund, that they won't have any revenue coming in, or should they do something different? And then I had a follow-up question from someone that wanted to know how you're handling processing fees, if for refunding as well.
Anybody want this? If not, I'll take it. So on refunds, we're trying to reschedule everybody, and we're having reasonably good success with that. If we get to the point where we're 14 days out and we still have a travel ban in place, we will refund at the guest request. Our first attempt will be that we will keep the processing fees, but if all else fails and the guest screams loud enough, we will likely refund the entire amount.
Great. And anyone else want to add to it?
Yeah, I do. Leslie here. We in Virginia, it's a trust accounting state. So the minute things started going, I guess the cancellations in March and April started hitting us heavy, I had to actually email to have in writing to all the owners, what do they want to do with their rents money? Like if we gave back the cleaning and our damage, waiver and all that, legally in the Commonwealth, it is their money and I would owe it to them, even if I refunded it. So only 2 owners were like, they should buy trip insurance and duke it out with them. And everybody else has been, okay, give it back. Or we're moving them to June or some time else in the summer. The majority have moved, which is interesting, have moved out. So I would just be cautious and say that whatever state or Commonwealth or whatever you're in, you need to check with those laws first from that perspective, and then make your decision based on that as well.
Ask a question. Okay, the ones that you did move to June, here's the thing. We have moved all of ours that we could possibly move. We're just like Lance, we move what we can. And then if they scream loud enough, or it is a true hardship, they've lost their job, we refund their money. But our rates are different. Our summer rates are obviously a little higher than our spring rates. And so the ones that you move, are you charging them the summer rate?
Well, we're charging them the summer rates right now, and some of ours go up double, and yours might too. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, ours too.
So, yeah, so we had that discussion with all the owners, and again, in our states, it's an owner's decision on rental monies. So we put that out and said, would you like to do 50% and split the difference with that guest? Because like somebody picked the week of 4th of July, right? And we're like, wow, you know, so, and they did, but the owners are being a bit negotiable and saying, okay, we'll do 50% with that guest. So we're splitting it, we're explaining that to the guest, and they're taking it. If it's a $100 difference for some odd reason, let's say they go to the first week of June, then we actually absorb that in our company. We're like going, oh, forget it. Let's keep moving.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
One thing I was reading too, and anybody can chime in on this, is booking.com, I believe. I don't know. Sometimes I think I dream this stuff up, but I read so much stuff. What am I making up in my head? But I feel like I read somewhere that booking.com was creating a cancellation policy that was more strict and saying that, travelers, about the coronavirus, about the risk. And so, if you make plans, then, we're going to have to enforce our cancellation policy.
That is the case with booking.com right now, whereas they're not implementing their force majeure anymore, because they do feel like we know of this crazy, thing that's going on. So when you make the booking, you are kind of accepting that cancellation policy. Now, I think that if things change and, there's another wave, or, there's more of a lockdown and things start going the opposite direction, they might enforce that again. But as of right now, they are not. I think starting either Monday or today, they started doing that.
And we've had a few people comment just saying how Chuck commenting how lucky you are that if you can have them reschedule, because of course so many of us live in seasonal businesses, seasonal areas where you can't reschedule, like bachelorette parties or fishing season, or just overall, any other stay-at-home order. So it is something to just the benefit if you are able to do that, just how lucky you are. He just wanted to point that out.
One of the things that somebody had mentioned that they'd had success in is not just allowing them to reschedule in 2020, but giving them an entire year so that season comes around. Because if you're a spring break traveler, you might not want to come in the fall. So you might want to wait till the following spring break, and that at least saves some of your business.
And go ahead, Karen. Sorry.
We've been doing the same thing. I was just reading Chuck's comment. We're the same way. We essentially have the same season, and we have lost some states because of events, weddings, things that are just being put off. But also we're trying to put a positive twist on it and pointing them in the direction of some off-season things. For instance, coming at Thanksgiving and participating in the early Christmas activities. And that's really gone over well with a lot of guests. They've kind of said, well, gosh, I never thought of that. I'll try that. And again, we're going into 2021. And I've even, for people willing to move to the fall, we've given them an extra night. Why not? It doesn't cost us anything. They're super thrilled, and they feel like they're getting something in addition, just for them being willing to be flexible, because we all know how many Airbnb guests, they can just push a button and cancel. And if they're actually willing to work with us to reschedule, I want to show them our appreciation.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I agree. Leslie here. And one of the other things, since we were having an issue with the processing fees as well, like what do you do? So if they're moving out and if they're using a reservation in fall, because we're seasonal as well, it's just that like you guys are, our fishing tournaments got all canceled in April, so they moved out to fall. All the graduations surrounding us, we have 3 major colleges, are in September now. So we moved those out. But if they move to 2021, we're not, we're letting that processing fee of $200 or $500 or whatever it was on their reservation move out with that, and they're not going to lose that money, basically.
I knew this topic was going to sneak up on us. We had several questions from our last webinar about cancellation policies and travel insurance. So I'm glad to interject that and have that discussion. I think they're really important. And if we have some time towards the end, we can definitely talk about travel insurance too. I'm sure that'll get some chatter on our chat and Q&A. But moving kind of towards opportunities, we talked about improvements in your website and keeping owners informed and doing the personal reach out to previous guests. But are there any opportunities I know a lot of you guys do currently have diversification of your companies through real estate. So I wanted to talk to you about how's the real estate activity. Are you managing any HOA? Are you coming up with different revenue streams? It's not a great time to hit up owners for making improvements, but maybe you have some owners that, do want to take this time and make improvements to their homes. And then questions about allowing longer stays, healthcare responder renting, Leslie, I know you have a lot with people who are coming to find safe haven in Smith Mountain Lake and things like that. But, I know this is a big question, a lot of questions, but want to get your feedback and what you guys are doing in order to help, keep some revenue coming in.
Well, I guess I'll start, Leslie, here. The business, I'm in real estate as well, so I sell that. It's going into an election year, and I don't know how many others are realtors out there, but it's basically slower. You have to be a broker in Virginia to manage property anyway. So I was expecting that. My real estate realtors team was. We're still selling, but maybe last year we were doing 2 closings a week. This year we're only doing maybe 2 a month, and that's okay. We were expecting some slowdown. HOA, that's a whole different license, and I have enough licenses right now. I don't want to go that way, but so you have to be qualified in that here. But we also we did another 1 or 2 other things. We're doing a lot of maintenance on the homes with our maintenance team, and we did a safety inspection actually for every single home. And we hired a licensed Virginia inspector to help us with that. And we offered to pay for that for our owners. So we got him through on that because it actually alleviates our company a lot by going ahead and telling the owner this. And if they could fix some small things like stones that may trip somebody up at the beginning of the walkways, little things, and then they give us permission to do it, or they send someone in. So, or there's a post that's warping too much, or stuff, things like that. So there, you can do safety inspections as well right now, is what I would point out. And you can either charge the owner or not. We assume that cost because we want the home safe, but we promised that back in January before all this. So, there's some other different ways that you can go about it. And one of my owners today, actually, ironically, brought up a point, and I was talking to them this morning, and we're making them go to duvet covers and duvet shams. It's going to look like a hotel. I have a feeling this is the way our industry is going to be after a while. As we all know, the hotels have been pushing us to be better, cleanliness standard, and they've always been after us in every county, probably every state. And so we put out that email. You know what they call? They're brokers as well out of Richmond. They called up and they said, well, is there a company that rents them? And I thought, well, there we go, another business idea. So you have some alternatives as you're moving through this process for yourselves, where maybe your owners will make some great suggestions. And I said, so we're trying to ask them what they feel like they could pay. What would be their max to pay if we rented out pillows and the duvet covers and everything to these owners now, rather than purchasing them and cleaning them every time. So, you never know where it's going to go.
What's interesting about the real estate sales, we do a good bit of sales, and we have a small sales team and typically have 15 to 25 listings. After last week, I contacted all of our sellers and suggested, hey, why don't we pull that off the market till July so that days on market will restart. Our showings have come to a complete halt. Every showing we've had for the last 3 weeks has been canceled, you know. And so I don't see the point in trying to keep those currently for sale. I still have maybe, I don't know, 11, you know, in our multi-list, but I mean, they're getting no activity.
And you've got 2 contracts though that just came in, what, yesterday, day before?
Yeah, we have a couple things. We have a buyer team, you know, buyer agent team, and they're getting things under contract, but it is kind of a weird time, you know, as far as that goes. But the properties that are selling are not our typical coastal vacation homes. They're homes for people to live in, you know, a little bit off the beach. So kind of interesting. Along those lines, we don't do any HOA anymore. I finally talked Karen out of it a few years ago. And I think we'll both live longer because of it. You know?
Agreed.
Lance can attest to that.
Yeah, totally.
I
love the idea about the safety inspection.
Yeah, I
on
just
the
wrote that
handrails.
down.
We just wrote that down. Thank you for sharing that.
We also have a real estate brokerage, and it has slowed down a little bit.
Hey, we're getting a
right now. I've been putting emphasis on our real estate marketing with the we froze up.
No, we got you now. You came back.
Okay, I'm back. I'm pushing the technology and the virtual tours. We can still do so we're still doing showings that way, and we also do long-term rentals, which we're very appreciative about now.
We did get a question in that just wanted to know, as a realtor, would you recommend buyers to wait until the state of things calm down?
In general, we haven't needed to recommend that to buyers. Buyers are doing that all by themselves. The buyers' activity has really slowed up, with the exception of people that need to move. We've got people that have jobs that are starting in 3 weeks, and they need to either rent a house or buy a house. So we still have some of that, and I hate it. I actually haven't been involved with any of these yet, but we have a number of people that are now buying houses sight unseen. So the market is going to carry on, and at least in Virginia, I know that realtors were classified as essential personnel, which I guess the housing market needs to carry on. Touching on the rest of this maintenance, we do not have a large enough maintenance department to offer services, but I have heard other companies that are doing that to keep the maintenance team busy, and it's been going well. HOA management is a whole other can of worms, and I actually let my PCAM expire about 2 years ago, and I will never do that again. And I'll let somebody else answer.
You know what, a quick side note, we also have a division or a company that's called Second Home Maintenance, and it's only for those that do not rent. They're not, you know, they can't rent on VRBO or to your next door neighbor, but what it is we charge a monthly, a different fee for condos and houses, and it depends upon the size of houses, et cetera, as far as the fee range. But we just go in once a month or twice a month and, you know, check on the home and do maintenance repairs, et cetera. So that is just another little, it's not that much, you know, money. However, you know, every penny counts under situations such as that. Vanessa, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. Rik, anything from you over there in the European market that you would want to weigh in on some of these activities?
Well, about the real estate market, it's here in Europe. Most countries are in lockdown. So even if you want to sell a house or buy a house, you can look at the nice pictures online, but you're still not allowed as a buyer to go with the realtor to visit the house because the countries are in lockdown. So that's still a very important issue. We expect real estate prices here to drop for 30% for the coming 6 months. So for us, this is not a real option. The other things like corporate housing, let's say the B2B market, Bruges is for 99% dependent on leisure market, on B2C market. So we cannot change to corporate stays because there's no real market for that. Healthcare workers also, as said, we are not, we didn't have that impact like cities like Bergamo with the COVID crisis. Here it went rather smooth. So we don't have here as alternative income possibility to do some housing of healthcare workers. So the options are limited, but nevertheless we are optimistic. We already see some bookings coming for September, October, November. Of course, not in the same volume as before, let's say in February, but at least we see some optimistic signs of recovery.
And you allow for longer stays as well. That's part of your market already. You're not able to do that right now, but that is something that you're moving towards, correct?
We move from short stays to midterm stays, let's say 3 times a month we've been doing, but change to longer stays, that's a completely different ball game. It's a different business, and yeah, that's not the business we were willing to do. So we're hopeful for it will recover.
Yeah. I was just reading, I think it was on TechCrunch, that Airbnb announced yesterday that they raised $1 billion in funds to go to their 3 core products: longer stays, experiences, and hosts. And, you just mentioned some opportunity for midterm stays. I think, Emily, you guys also allow for midterm stays. Elaine and Lance, you guys have a few that are long-term stays, which seems to be a dirty word in the vacation rental industry because we know that there's not much money in it in compared to the short-term stays. But just interested in hearing your feedback, as we're always looking for opportunities. Those midterm stays, how are you guys handling them? We didn't touch as much on corporate housing from some of the other panelists, and want to get your feedback on it, as well as maybe with, healthcare worker stays and things like that. Anybody want to take that question, that long-winded question?
So,
Emily's got it. Okay. Go ahead, Emily. So we are fundamentally a short-term stay rental company. So we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. Obviously, you have to kind of adapt if you want to stay alive, but we have enough resources to kind of get us by. But we are implementing a midterm stay. So we've converted a lot of our listings on Airbnb to be a part of their first responder program for the smaller bedroom homes. Obviously, it's not really going to make sense for our larger homes. People are not going to be renting those for a long period of time anyway. Those really need to be short term. So until Disney reopens, we just really can't do a whole lot with those. But we have converted our smaller homes to more of that, but we're not looking to extend that into too much past the summertime because it's too much up in the air. We already have so many processes in place that once it starts getting to go, we're just going to hit the ground running again. And we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by having too much of our inventory on a longer term stay lockdown. So we are converting more to, or focusing a little bit more on midterm, but not long term.
So we have a separate division that handles anywhere between 30 and 35 long-term rentals, and that is what they do. They're unfurnished homes. They're just long-term rentals, and it's been a very good, it's been a good provider of cash flow for us in a downtime like this. it's been steady. So that's been good for us, but that's something that you've got to build before now. You're not going to find that market right, you know, in this time of crisis.
Mm-hmm. We do have quite a few more questions, and I want to make sure we kind of get through them, but don't rush them too much. The other one I feel like is a good one to go into going after homeowners. There's been a lot of change ups with, some of the larger companies, and maybe they don't have boots on the ground in some of your areas. So you guys have found opportunities there. And then RBOs, who may have thought that they could do it by themselves before. Are you finding any opportunities as far as, that commission that's really earned the fact that you're handling these cancellations, your boots on the ground? Tell me about what you guys are doing and strategically to go after some of these opportunities.
We're doing it passively, but it's working really well. And what I mean by that is we're very, from the beginning, we were very proactive, and we're on social media all the time. Our owners know what we're doing. They're coming on and seeing what we're doing. Other owners are seeing that. So we're just putting a positive twist on it. And without even trying, I do think on the other side of this, it will get us some new business.
I'd support that and say, I'd say we're taking a little bit more of a conservative approach. I feel like in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, that's not the time to start attacking and going after business. We have been really blessed and have built most of our business on our reputation and our word of mouth. So we're taking the stance that our owners know what we do. They know the communication that we're providing and what we're doing for them right now. So my hope is that they're going to tell these other owners, hey, Gibson did this and that, while this was going on. So we are revamping our owner materials. So hopefully, when we come out from this, we're going to have some new information. We're going to have a little bit different onboarding processes and different things like that. But I don't feel good sleeping at night knowing I'm going after a company who maybe can't function the way that we can, and trying to get their owners that way. So again, we're taking a little bit more of a conservative backseat approach and letting those owners come to us if they don't feel that they're being properly taken care of.
Cool. Anybody else have anything else to add to that? How about pricing during uncertainty? We've got Emily, and she is the revenue director. I might have that title wrong, but I know you do a lot with the revenue management there at Casiola. Any tips or tricks that you want our attendees to make sure that they take into consideration as they're, offering discounts and adjusting their pricing algorithms, and, share us some of your wisdom there?
Well, obviously, a lot of what we do is based on our pacing and our trends, and it's very hard to determine where we're going to be when you have a global pandemic of such proportions that we've never had before. So going based off of year-over-year comparisons, it is really difficult. But what we are trying to do is not make too many decisions too far out. We are trying to kind of alleviate the damage for the short term while trying to reserve as much of our revenue potential for the longer term. One of the things that I can definitely say is that when you are deciding your pricing, it's very important to keep your brand integrity no matter what market we have. So that's a constant that we know. No matter what market you have, things are good, things are bad. You don't want to be too low and you don't want to be too high. You want to kind of try to fly in the middle. Don't be the first person to cut your rates. Don't be the last person. You do have to be mindful of what the other rates are, but don't make it your deciding factor. You have to go based off of your own trends, your own data, and use that for your own decision making. As far as pricing algorithms, we do use the dynamic pricing software that's helped strategically align us to be, I guess, in a better position. We use Beyond Pricing, and it doesn't just give us a seasonal rate, it gives us a day-to-day rate. So we are specifically pricing it per day. So that algorithm has already been calculated for. So it's not going past, I think, the end of April. And then when it gets a little bit closer, we're going to decide if we're going to keep it afterwards. So we're not changing too much, but we just have to adjust for the immediate future and then try to, I guess, adapt as things happen.
Anybody else have? Go ahead.
Actually, I'm sorry. I had a follow-up for Emily on that one. I haven't used any of the automated tools in revenue management at this point, but something like Beyond Pricing, I'm curious, with the data being extraordinarily skewed by lack of demand right now, is it messing with the algorithms that they provide?
Well, I think that they have enough data to go off of that collectively, yes, it may be skewed right now because of the fact that we have a national or a global pandemic, that it's really hard to say, okay, well, you need to take 10% off, or you need to take 20% off, or kind of, what it is, but they can see what things are renting for. So, and price it where it should be in comparison. So you may not have a year over year comparison, but you can have a market comparison to figure out where you need to be.
I have a comment on that. And it goes back to your question, Lance, also. This year I started using Untitled.com. I've always done my own yielding within our back-end system. And I've, looked at the dates and forecasted out. We're actually up ahead right now with—
That's great.
Yeah, but we're looking at not only the occupancy and the average price, the ADRs, but we're looking at really how it compacts together with the revenue overall.
Mm-hmm.
And we started out in February up about 60% year to date. They can actually go back year to date. So you may want to look at some different performance to see who can do what. I also use Transparent that looks at the data year to year as well. So I look at a couple different variables around, but we're still up, and actually our pricing this month is up, which is really struck me more. It actually raised last night sometime because we took a booking today and they said, oh, it's like $100 more. Well, staff called me frantically. I was like, well, let's just honor it, but it's actually still rising right now within 24 hours, and we're getting it. So I think, yeah, if you look at like what your price, Beyond Pricing is good, but if you look at all these different variables, they can really help you do a lot. And it's taken a lot off my load. If I was still doing that right now with everything else, I'd probably lose my mind. But, it's pretty good right now. So
one of the things that we also have to realize when we are doing dynamic pricing is that it's not necessarily competing with our competitors. When we change our pricing dynamically, it's competing with the market itself. So if your particular pacing is changing, you can change your pricing based off of that, and it really has nothing to do with where everything else is. So if you're experiencing a year-over-year trend that's higher and everybody else is a little bit lower, until your booking pace slows down, you continue on with that.
One thing that we discussed the other day that I think is really important, being in the panhandle of Florida, 10 years ago, we had the BP oil spill. And I can vouch and say that what happened when the oil spill came is everybody along the Gulf Coast, we all needed money, we all needed rentals, and everybody dropped their prices. And collectively, I think our industry set a guest mind frame. And it wasn't a good mind frame. It was a cheap mind frame. It was well, if you don't want my business, somebody else will. They'll take my $25 if you want. So I think that, if you're not going to provide a lesser experience or a lesser property, a lesser product, then why would you drop your rate? And again, just from experience, it took us years to get out of that BP oil spill mind frame. It took us a good 4 or 5 years for our rates to get back up to where they should have been. So obviously everybody's pricing is going to be different across the nation because everybody's affected differently. We can't rent, you can. different things like that. But I would definitely suggest before you go in and think, oh, let me just drop my prices to get the people here, think about what you're doing to your long-term business. That's great if your occupancy is high, but if your ADR is low, if you're paying attention to key data reports and any sort of actual reports and data, I don't think that that's what everybody is suggesting, or what the data shows is the smart for your long-term business.
Right.
Good point. Good point. And to kind of move on to the next point, was a question that you guys kind of suggested to propose, because my background with websites and marketing. Of course, I want you guys to get your direct bookings, but the question was, as an industry in VRMs, are you relying too much on OTAs? And what are some of those things that have led you to make that decision? And what's your strategy to get away from this reliance?
I can go ahead and take that one if you want. I think that anytime that there's a third party that has that much control over your revenue and the assets you manage on behalf of your owners, when you are basically given a decision that you have to make on behalf of your own company by a third party, it makes you look internally and realize how much control you don't have. So from a company standpoint, from a risk management standpoint, it's kind of making us all focus on how to get more direct bookings, how to get more of that control back, or how to band together to potentially make it so that can't happen again. You touch a hot stove once, okay, fine, but if you touch it again, then it's kind of your own fault. So I think that there probably needs to be some policies in place, and I think a lot of us know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the financial detriment that certain third parties have made. But I think that they probably had to do what they had to do, but also you have to think about that we have a product that they need as well. So without the actual physical home, the guests, there's not going to be an exchange of money. So we do have something that is of value to them as well. So definitely something that needs to be addressed going forward.
I'll jump on that bandwagon with you too, Emily. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm very vocal about many of these things with OTAs, and I wrote a perfect sentence so I wouldn't mess this up. I think now is the best time for people to evaluate what companies have supported your business during this time. And if there is a OTA or a company who has not supported you, you really need to figure out what your future is going to be with that company. I can vouch for a local company here, ecbyo.com. They created a stimulus package, and they contacted all of the owners and property managers and said, this is what we're going to do for you with your subscriptions. We're offering discounted rates. We're extending them. I can say to date, they are the only OTA that has reached out to me and has supported me and has not told me how to run my business.
Good point.
And educate your guests. Don't ever stop educating
And
them.
I will say, I will just add that I'm kind of on board with everybody here in that regard, but I do know that there's some smaller, newer companies out there that are going to be reliant on OTAs. We are just, and we started out, when you're young, you're relying on OTAs. It's the best bang for your buck on getting new bookings. We've just gotten to the point where we could do a proper website. I shouldn't say that, but I will. And then, one thing about OTAs right now, they're great for bringing in that first guest, and I'm probably fading. But once you get that guest from an OTA, they should never go back to the OTA. Make them your guest.
I agree with everybody there, especially what you said, Lance. That's what we try to do. Sometimes we do it successfully, sometimes not, but we have always received but we've had a great website probably almost since the beginning. Not that I did it, but I hired somebody to do it. But so we've been fortunate in that we've probably had 80% of our bookings come direct, but we all realize who Emily was talking about, and we've actually left it up to our owners. Do they want to continue with certain OTAs? We actually told them exactly which OTAs were doing what during this period. And half of our owners were like, no, get me off that OTA, because they are in control of your money and there's nothing we can do.
I think it's going to be a little challenging after this, in that I think there are some guests out there that are smart enough to know that Airbnb has been on their side throughout this, and for that very reason will continue to want to use them. So I think we're in the short term, we're going to be fighting against that, but we do the same thing. When we have a reservation come in from one of the OTAs, we instantly get their email address and direct information, and then they're our guests moving forward.
Great. And I appreciate those that have stayed on. I know we're over time, and if anybody needs to drop off, we totally respect that. This is one, during this pandemic, we started talking about what are the things that we need to watch out for. There seems to be some unfairness in the fact that in some markets, hotels are able to keep booking, but short-term rentals are blocked. And, some areas in the Northeast have been shutting down. I think it was in Vermont that I was reading and watching that they have shut down short-term rentals indefinitely. I feel like that is a bit drastic not to have a set date that, could be pushed back in the event to keep the public safe, but to not have an end time on there. And then we also started talking about local regulations and having the locals, everybody's at a higher anxiety rate, and what kind of impacts is this going to lead to down the road for those areas that the locals have wanted to get or lessen the short-term rental market in those areas. So if you guys could provide some feedback to the audience that we still have on, we still seem to have a majority of the folks still tuned in. What are you guys watching out for? What do you feel like are our next set of threats that we need to be looking at the horizon?
I'll jump on that. I think that I happen to know this actually from Bar Harbor, Maine, from that entity. They actually shut down short-term rentals in Bar Harbor, Maine on one side of the island, but not on the other. And which is very odd. It's all Acadia National Park. So the people that are doing it by themselves or by other companies in one town, in one village, as they say there, versus another village on the opposite side of the island, they were like, people are still going to come to Acadia and use the gas pump and go to the grocery store. So what's the difference? We haven't experienced that in Virginia, in our area, Southwest Virginia, yet. I think the hotels are having a harder time currently trying to stay booked. I think they're down 40% or something right now. Something I was reading just this morning through, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Skift, but Skift is a good benching mark. It goes across all tourism industry, airlines, hotels, everything. But I think our regulations for short-term rentals, like I said before, are going to become very strict within the housekeeping sector, because that is something the hotels have pushed us on continuously and as a benchmark. And they can be that aggressive in Virginia. There's an old bill on the books that says that an inspector, a health inspector, can come in at any time for any type of lodging or accommodation. So I think that we all should be proactive and look at our state legislation, what is on the books, what we may predict, and try to come in line, especially from that venue, just to keep to par and to standard with what the hotels are doing, or what the other accommodations are doing legally.
I'll hop on this one too. So here in Florida, as I mentioned earlier, the governor shut down vacation rentals only for 2 weeks back on March the 29th. I guess this Sunday we're coming up on the turn, so we'll see if it winds up getting extended or not. But I know that I received a message from the Florida VRMA, and they actually kind of educated me a little bit and saying, hey, you know, have you guys paid attention that this executive order is just for vacation rentals and doesn't shut down hotels? So I pulled up the executive order and read it, and sure enough, hotels, motels, resorts, timeshares, and I think kind of long-term rentals are allowed to operate. Now, I will also say in the executive order that if you are a vacation rental, housing, military, infrastructure, healthcare, anything like that, you can still operate from my understanding of the order. But it obviously created a major concern of the Florida governor shutting down all vacation rentals. So why is a hotel any different than that? And as I talked to many different people across the nation, I started hearing that in these other states, a lot of them shut down all lodging. So it was all short-term rental stays, unless it was for emergency, everything got shut down. So, you know, I think, and just seeing and talking to other people, that regulations and the way people are treated is something we all need to be a little bit aware of. I know that local municipalities can obviously shut down whatever they want to, like down in Key West area of, you know, South Florida, they did shut down all lodging down there. So I think, as we just talked about it, it's something that everybody needs to be aware of. And I realize you have to take care of your own business, but you also need to see what kind of restrictions are being put out there. And if you're in a city or an area where the locals or the homeowners are trying to fight vacation rentals, now might be the time that, you know, everybody's kind of so busy just trying to survive that they might be trying to push things through. And I don't want to say take advantage, but take advantage of you. So I think it's just something that everybody needs to keep your eyes very open and be very aware. Don't close your eyes and just think that everything's shut down, because I know in Destin it's not.
I agree with that, you know, 100%. You know, we have the Republicans versus the Democrats. We have Auburn versus Alabama fans. We will always have those who rent go head to head with those who don't. And with that being said, especially in condominiums, or, you know, where you have, you know, those that don't rent and they really want to make the entire building non-rentals, or they have a tendency to be a little bit more aggressive or have an ugly attitude toward those who appear to be renters coming into their building. And now that they've gotten a little bit of a taste of what it's like not to have the renters around, you just want to be more cautious of what they can do. They're not, you know, they've got their own little group. They've got their own little email group, their Facebook group, and, you know, for them to get together and use this pandemic as a motivating factor to go after. And all it takes, guys, it doesn't necessarily take the local government. It takes a condominium or a subdivision's HOA.
Just the board.
Just the board.
They have nothing but time right now.
Right. And so if you've got people on the board who do not like renters, and they're getting a taste of what it's like not to have renters around, then they're really eager to, hey, okay, let's see, can we push this on through? And so you need to be mindful of it.
I agree. April, do we have any questions from the audience about any of this, the topics that we've went through the past like 3 or 4?
We have a couple of items that have popped in that aren't necessarily directed to the questions. That's why I was kind of holding them until it's time. We've had a lively discussion about unemployment and over here in the chat, as far as, and I appreciate you guys, the panelists have actually been jumping on and helping answer this at the same time. So this has been great. But, you know, so some of the concern is, and this goes to those that maybe haven't had the chance to answer, but with unemployment and people not having to go out and actively look for a replacement, or a job, but they're also getting the $600 a week plus the percent that the state is paying them. Are you going to do any kind of enticement to lure them back to you once you're able to rehire for anybody maybe you've laid off? And then the follow-up question of that is, if you're in that, if you are, what would that be?
All right, I'll go first. I wouldn't be inclined to offer an incentive to come back to work, but we're a small company. So I guess for some of the larger employers, you're going to have two types of people there. You're going to have team members, and then you're going to have people that have a job. It's my belief that the team members are going to be glad to come back to work. Some of those other people, it may be time to replace.
Exactly. If they're not willing to come back and even excited to come back, I don't think we want them on our team.
I love it.
Great answer. And then I think just overall, just some points about how long unemployment's going to last for some areas. And just reading some of the comments, it's, definitely it's different per state. So I know that some states offer a larger percentage of pay versus some of the other states. So that does obviously impact, because then somebody's making maybe even more money than they were making in their regular job. So that is something that, maybe to kind of consider as well whenever you're looking at those. And then we had another question come in saying that, or asking if anybody has had any success with travel insurance. I know I know I'm going down a rabbit hole by bringing it up, but I didn't know if anybody had quick answers of your experience with travel insurance through this time.
I thought that was a great way of wording that question. So kudos to that person.
It's not really a rabbit hole. The answer is no. And I've spoken to a lot of people about it over the past few days. And I don't believe anybody's had any success. There are the limited success that's been had is the people who were selling the cancel for any reason insurance. But even that's become limited, and those policies are no longer being sold by most companies, not all. But if you are just talking about the standard travel insurance policy, unless you have a doctor's note that say you have coronavirus, there's not very many instances of people having successful claims. Even if people have lost their job due to coronavirus, that job loss may not be covered, we learned this morning.
And we're still having people interested in purchasing trip insurance, but we're being very cautious because I don't want them to come back to us angry at the end of the day because they weren't covered. So, a phrase we use in real estate often is be the source of the source. So we tell them before purchasing it through us to call, to ask the questions, to find out if the scenario would be covered. Just feels like the right thing to do, as much as we'd love to sell as much of it as possible.
Great answer.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I agree with what Lance and you guys said. We have CSA travel protection. From my understanding, they are only covering if someone tests positive for COVID-19 or if you are doctor's orders mandatory quarantined. So that's just my understanding. So I know that my biggest fear is that people are going to say, well, I bought this insurance, but it didn't cover anything, so why should I buy it again? And please know I am a travel insurance enthusiast. Like, I buy it. I want everybody to buy it. So I will admit, and I can understand the really hard predicament that the travel insurance companies are in right now, because this is a pandemic that none of us have ever seen. But I really do worry, and it's going to be interesting to see what the stats are after all of this kind of quote unquote blows away, is do people trust in travel insurance going forward? And I think it's going to be an uphill battle for travel insurance and trying to sell it. And, again, we do the same thing of, contact CSA. I can tell you my own personal reasons of why I have bought CSA insurance, how it's helped me personally. But here's the number, call them and see what they do. But a guest is just going to hear and see travel insurance. That means I can cancel and it's going to cover. So again, I think that uphill battle is going to be pretty steep for them.
Agreed. So I guess it kind of goes into, questions for our next webinar. Those that are still on and all of our panelists, thank you. And, think about, what do we need answered? Where do we go from here? What questions do you guys still have? And, what can we help you answer? There's, the VRM Intel live event that's coming up, and I know that the VRMA is still trying to put together a virtual forum for spring, and there's a lot of great webinars out there, so we really appreciate the fact that you guys have tuned in, stayed tuned in, and please reach out to me if you guys have additional questions. And thank you so much to our panelists for your insight and sharing everything that is totally invaluable, that we just really appreciate you volunteering your time when you are so busy and going over the time allotted. I really thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks
April,
for putting it together, Vanessa.
No, it's my pleasure. April, are there any other final questions we need to ask before we let these guys go?
We just had one kind of big one. I think it would be good to maybe focus for the next webinar, which was, if the pandemic doesn't finish within the next 6 to 7 months, what would you recommend to do as far as your business, keeping it up and everything? So I think that's for the next, I saw everybody's face. I think that's for the next webinar.
But
these guys are too optimistic.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do want to end this on a positive note. Every morning watching the news has brought me such anxiety. But for the first time this morning, I felt like there was just a little light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if you all caught Dr. Fauci this morning, but the predictions are that we're peaking sooner, we're going to flatten sooner. The number of fatalities has dropped. So to me, it was just great news. So hopefully they're right. Hopefully we keep moving that direction. And I will say that after that, I have not gotten quite as many cancellation calls as I have every other day. So maybe that's something. And I did make a reservation for July.
Yay.
Exactly.
One last question for Vanessa. One last question for our host. What time's happy hour start?
And can you do that thing? Nothing with your hair, Vanessa.
I think that's
in the Blue Ridge Mountains, we've already started.
Hey, this is Peers and Ideas, not Beers and Ideas, all right? That starts at 5:15. We might have to let you all in.
That's fine. Hey,
all right, guys. Thanks.
Good luck, everybody.
We appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.